Toys and games play a crucial role in childhood, helping children develop cognitive, motor, emotional, and social skills. The toy company Fisher-Price was founded in 1930 in East Aurora, New York, by Herman Fisher, Irving Price, Margaret Evans Price, and Helen Shelley. The goal of the company was to create high-quality, engaging toys that would capture children's imaginations at a price that would appeal to parents and caregivers. The company introduced their first line of pull toys, known as the 16 Hopefuls, at the 1931 American International Toy Fair. The toys were a hit, with Dr. Doodle, a duck pull toy, becoming the company's first successful sale. Ideas for new toy designs often came from watching how children played. Once a toy reached the model stage, it underwent testing by engineers and child psychologists, followed by rigorous play tests with children, who were observed by toy designers through a one-way mirror. Fisher-Price saw significant growth throughout the 1930s, but halted toy production from 1943 to 1945 due to material shortages, as metal and other resources were redirected for the war effort. During this time, the factory shifted to fulfilling military contracts, producing supplies such as wooden crates for medical equipment, ship fenders, vapor detector kits for poisonous gas, and mud shoes. In the 1950s, Fisher-Price began incorporating plastic into their toys, with Buzzy Bee being the first toy to feature plastic components. Plastic was a popular material amongst parents, as it was durable and could be cleaned easily, and the material continued to grow in popularity at toy companies. In 1963, Fisher-Price began searching for a location for a Canadian manufacturing plant. At the time, Canada was the largest export market for Fisher-Price toys. Orangeville Mayor Harry Tideman met with company representatives and gave them a tour of the community, and in November 1964, Fisher-Price purchased the old Monarch Master factory at 95 John Street in Orangeville and began retrofitting it to become a toy factory. The new Fisher-Price factory not only created jobs for local residents, but also attracted newcomers to the town. With just over 90 employees, the Orangeville Fisher-Price factory officially began production in the spring of 1965. Fisher-Price arrived in Orangeville during a period of significant growth in the town's manufacturing industry. At that time, Orangeville was a small town with a population of just over 5,000 people, with only one electric stoplight, and was primarily composed of small, independently run businesses. However, the 1960s marked a turning point with the introduction of large manufacturing plants, such as Filtro Electric, Greening Metal Products, and Polyethylene Bag Canada Limited. Over 30 varieties of toys were created in the Orangeville plant between 1965 and 1968. Prancy Pony was one of the first toys made in the Orangeville Fisher-Price factory in 1965. Prancy Pony was a wooden cutout with paper lithographs glued to the sides. When pulled, both the spring-mounted head and tail moved while the wheels made a clickety-clack sound. First introduced in the 1950s, Buzzy Bee was the first Fisher-Price toy to incorporate plastic in its design. In 1956, the company gave the bee a crown, and it was reintroduced as Queen Buzzy Bee. When pulled, the antennas bounce, the wings twirl, and the bee makes a buzz-buzz sound. The Jack and Jill TV radio was Fisher-Price's first ever musical wind-up toy. It played the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme while illustrations moved along with the tune. Designed with a handle, it was also easy to take on the go. Manufactured in 1966, this music box quickly became a fan favorite. The toy featured moving knobs that, when turned, played London Bridge and Row, Row, Row Your Boat. The school bus playset was the first to introduce small wooden peg characters, which later evolved into the popular Little People line. Between 1965 and 1990, the school bus characters underwent various changes, with Bill, the first person of color schoolmate figurine, introduced in 1968. Introduced as part of the 1966 lineup of 60 new toys, the Music Box Iron allowed children to iron while activating the tune, "This is the Way We Iron Our Clothes." Pressing the steam button produced a whistle sound.
My name is Larry Leeson. I've read in the molding department of the Fisher-Price toys, and they had what they call injection molding and blow molding. And the blow molding is a part where they had the plastic coming out of a tube, which was called a parazon. They would go down into a mold which had 4 hypodermic needles, and they went into the mold and they blew the form for the wheels. When they'd open up, those wheels dropped out onto a table, and the girl would put them in a box. Then they would go to the assembly line and be assembled on the toys. My mother, Elsie Leeson, worked there, and she was on this assembly line assembling the toys. And we didn't have too much to do with each other. She was in one department, I was in another, so we just didn't talk much about work when we got home, because we both had our jobs to do. I would describe Mr. Fisher as a tall, stately gentleman, a very protective of his product, and he had personal care for the people who work for him.
My name is Donna Douglas, and I worked at Fisher-Price when I was 19. When you're a summer student, your roles are varied because they put you where they need you. You don't have an area of expertise. So I started out on an assembly line for the telephones, doing wheels, and I was in repair for a while. The worst part of my job was measuring actuator levers for the camera. So when you took the picture, the flash moved around, and the lever was what activated the whole camera. And I was alone, surrounded by boxes of actuator levers, which were tiny plastic things. And my job was to pick one up and take a ruler and make sure the two things touched, and then put it in another box. And I was surrounded by thousands of actuator levers. It was horrible. Well, one of the big buzzes, actually, if you ask about excitement, was that we got an order from Eaton's for 500,000 telephones. And they were a block of wood with paper on them, and the wheels had to go on. And as you pulled it, the eyes did this. They wiggled, which was significant because for a time I was on the packaging end of things. So all day they were coming down a ramp and I was holding open a box for them to go in, with little eyes going at you all day. When I first went to Fisher-Price, one of the things I was excited about was the money I was going to be making. My first job, 25 cents an hour, and then I worked in the kitchens at the hospital, 50 cents an hour. I went to Fisher-Price for $1 an hour. So my paycheck was $41 a week. It was incredible. And I was saving for my tuition, my first year tuition at Ryerson. So I was thrilled to have doubled what I was making. So then 3 years later, with a journalism degree, I went to the Kingston Whig Standard to start my first job. And because I was female, I was making $40 a week. And the men were making $80. Thus began my career in feminine activism.
Of the plant's 90 employees, the majority were women who were paid less than men who did the same work. In 1965, Ontario's minimum wage was $1 per hour, with women in the manufacturing industry making an average of $1.41 per hour and men an average of $2.33 per hour. At that time, 63% of manufacturing workers in the Ontario toy industry were female. The workers at Fisher-Price were first organized under an association, but in 1968 they unionized under Local 905 of the International Toy and Doll Workers Union. The union had multiple meetings with Fisher-Price executives to negotiate better pay, benefits, and job protection. When no progress was made, 98% of union workers voted to go on strike, starting April 10, 1968. The strike quickly became intense, with picketers marching up and down John Street outside of the factory. There are also accounts of picketers throwing rocks at the homes of the factory's general managers at night. With no progress being made at the bargaining table by August 1968, Fisher-Price decided to go public about the strike. They placed an ad in the Orangeville Banner outlining their offer to increase female employee wages to $1.86 per hour within 18 months and some other benefits. They stated that it was the most that they could afford to continue manufacturing in Canada. The union rejected the offer as female employees still would have been underpaid compared to their male counterparts. Soon after, a rumor began circulating through the town that the plant was closing. In response, Lloyd Temple, plant personnel manager, told the Orangeville Banner that the rumors were definitely false. A week later, the Orangeville Banner reported the closure of the plant.
There was a lot of tension around the strike. They got some kids to break bottles in the driveways where we drove in and out so we would get a flat tire. We're unloading a railroad car over the train station, and the harassment started over there. And of course, the railroad have their own police, and they came out with shotguns and told the union members to get off of their property while they could still walk. Well, I think there's a lot of hard feelings on both sides. People didn't speak to each other for a while, and I just think it was bad for the town. The town would have really benefited from having Fisher-Price in Orangeville, but Fisher just got fed up and he said, that's it, we're going to close the doors. We can't get anywhere with anybody, so that was it. Fisher-Price toys were the top of the line toy, and they did anything that would keep the child's attention to the toy, and they certainly did that, and they were well made, that could last forever.
My sense of pride working at Fisher-Price probably was the greatest in the repair department, because you had a start, a process, and a finish. I was 18 and I had absolutely no interest in children playing with toys. But 10 years later, when I had kids, started having kids, then of course the miracle of what had gone into those toys, the toaster oven, the coffee maker, you just started to realize that how incredibly important the design was.
I think toys are important for kids because they help grow your imagination, and you're gonna need your imagination when you're older.
I like playing with toys because they make me happy. I like my snake because it's so cool. I like playing with my car because people will. I like taking care of baby things. Make baby things make me feel happy.
This is my toy. I actually designed it, and her name is Lil Emmy, and she is the main character from the book that I wrote. What I like about designing toys is bringing my characters to life by designing it and then getting it manufactured, and then they're right here, like they're real.
Today, Fisher-Price, now owned by Mattel, continues to create toys that help shape the next generation. Fisher-Price toys are a cherished part of many people's childhoods, having shaped generations and continuing to inspire children to use their imagination and explore the world around them. Orangeville, Dufferin County got to be a small part of this legacy, and they're proud of it.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.